Welcome. There are some guests who will continue to come in, and we will make room for them as they enter our sanctuary. I am the Reverend Kikanza Nuri Robbins. I am consulting pastor here, and I welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist Community Congregation of Santa Monica. As we gather, we pause. We pause for many reasons. We pause because we're waiting. We pause because we have waited for so long. We pause because coming into this space brings memories of times that you have been here before, or memories of stories that you've heard about things that have taken place here. And we pause because this is sacred space. And sacred space causes us to breathe in and hold our breaths and remember and to feel the spirits that are here, to feel the spirits that are embodied in the lights and the wood and the carpeting, and to honor the spirits and the ancestors and those who were on this land before it was land called Santa Monica. This land belonged to people who called themselves Tongva or Gabrieleño or Ventureño. And so we honor their presence among us. We honor their painful histories. We acknowledge the ongoing struggles for equity and justice and sovereignty for all people all over the world. And we honor this sacred space because it is indeed on sacred land. And so I invite you to turn down your electronic devices. We have restrooms. There's a restroom in the narthex, and if you go through the social hall and can pass by the tables that have cookies on them and don't eat them yet, there are a lot of restrooms over in this corner of the building through the social hall. Come on in. We were waiting for you. And so we want you to be comfortable. We want you to know that the family wants you here. The family has been looking forward to this moment. They've been holding their breaths for some time. And the members of the UUSM congregation are so happy that you are here and that we are able to contribute to the honoring and celebrating of the lives of Harvey and Sheila Bjornley. So as part of being a Unitarian, we have a chalice, and we light the chalice at the beginning of our services as an embodiment of the fire, the energy, the flame of light that burns within us and around us. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious movement, and it's open to all people, it's open to all faiths, it's open to all spiritual traditions. So this is a place where mixed families will come because they'll find at least somebody like them here. And it's a place where we don't impose doctrine and dogma, but rather ask, what is it that you believe? What is it that you bring? How is it that we can sing in harmony with one another? And so as individuals, we have a wide range of differing beliefs about life and death and life after death. And we don't come to proselytize. We're here today to honor the lives of two of our own, Harvey and Sheila. And we are here today to give ourselves a chance to think again, to think anew, to think perhaps for the first time in a meaningful way about what this aspect of life means. And so I read to you from the Hebrew scripture, Ecclesiastes. There is a season for everything, a time for every occupation under heaven, a time for giving birth and a time for dying, a time for planting, a time for uprooting, a time for being sick, a time for healing, a time for knocking down, a time for building, a time for tears and a time for laughter, a time for mourning, a time for dancing, a time for throwing things away, a time for gathering them in, a time for embracing, a time for holding back, a time for searching, a time for losing, a time for keeping, a time for discarding, a time for tearing, a time for sowing, a time for keeping silent, a time for speaking, a time for loving, a time for hating, a time for war, a time for peace. Although God has given us an awareness of the passage of time, we can grasp neither the beginning nor the end of what God does. And so we invite you to sing. We're singing, the family has chosen a morning song for us, Morning Without the You. Morning has broken. It is hymn number 38. You have several colors of books in front of you. We're using the gray hymnal this morning. Morning has broken. Memorial services are for remembering, and they're for grieving. They're for coming together as community. We remember those that we have lost before, Harvey and Sheila. We remember all that we lost during the pandemic isolation. And we remember all who have died since then. And so today we take the time to bear witness to our beliefs about life and death and life after death. This service of remembrance is an opportunity for learning about the Bjornleys from perspectives of people that you may not know. It's also an opportunity to learn a little bit more about yourself and to clarify or to strengthen what you believe. And so we're going to hear from a number of speakers. First, we're going to hear Harvey and Sheila's story, and then we'll have memories from a number of family members and friends. We will have some music, and then we'll have an open mic. And so if there are a few of you who are moved to share a story that connects you to the family, that connects you to Harvey or Sheila, you will have an opportunity to do that then. So I ask that when you come up, come all the way up, and you don't have to adjust the mic because our beautiful Mia in the back there will make sure that we all can hear. But tell us who you are and tell us how you are connected to the family. And so we start with their story.
Okay, hi, my name is Chris. I'm married to Cara, the youngest of the Bjornleys.
And I'm Sandy, and I'm married to Stuart.
Their story. Harvey Conrad Bjornley was born on January 1st, 1930, in Great Falls, Montana. He was the only child of Mabel Alice Harvey and Conrad Thorfinn Bjornley. Mabel was an English immigrant, and Conrad, a Norwegian-American farmer turned lawyer.
Sheila Lee Peterson was born in Eau Claire, Wisconsin on June 7th, 1932, to Madge Wallace Peterson and Ephraim Lucius Peterson, a school teacher and newspaper editor of Swedish descent, respectively. Sheila was the oldest of her three siblings, Walker, Penny, and Aaron. The family moved to Montana when Sheila was 12.
In 1948, Harvey attended Reed College. Then he transferred to the University of Michigan to earn a degree in mechanical engineering with an automotive emphasis.
After high school, Sheila attended Colorado Women's College and graduated with an associate degree in journalism.
Home for summer break in 1951, Sheila and Harvey were set up on a blind date, although they had checked one another out beforehand. The evening was spent square dancing. They say it was just about love at first meeting, because their senses of humor were perfect complements.
They carried on a correspondence courtship, and upon their graduations in 1952, they were married in Great Falls. Their honeymoon was spent camping in Glacier Park and relocating to Santa Monica, where Harvey began his career with Douglas Aircraft. Sheila took jobs in advertising copy and administration with UCLA's engineering department. The newlyweds joined the Unitarian Church, where Harvey's free-thinking nature and Sheila's desire of traditional fellowship both were met. Soon, Conrad and Mabel made Santa Monica their home too, to be closer to them.
Coming from Montana, Harvey and Sheila thought that only the loose marbles ended up in Los Angeles. But they found that they fell into the loose marbles culture quite easily, attending sports car rallies, soaking up contemporary art and design, exploring the Southwest, connecting Navajo weavings, modern furniture, and art.
Parenthood for the couple began in 1955 with baby Dina. 2 years later, Andrea arrived. They then bought their first house located on Marquez Avenue in Pacific Palisades. 6 years later came their only son, Stuart, followed up by Cara. In 1968, they upsized to the home on Almar. Sheila's brother, Walker, moved to LA, and he and his kids, Aaron and Walker Jr., were regulars in the household. In an effort to inject some Swedish culture, Sheila arranged to have a boy from Sweden stay for a year. Sten is considered family to this day. The Bjornley family valued cultural enrichment, artistic expression, and enjoying the outdoors, skiing, sailing, camping, motorcycling, and hiking in the Sierras.
Harvey spent most of his professional life at Douglas Aircraft and McDonnell Douglas in the area of multidisciplinary conceptual design. A highlight was working on the interior design of Skylab, the United States' first space station. For that, Harvey would have to relocate to Florida for 1 year. So the entire family, including dog and 2 cats, were packed in the Suburban for a cross-country trip on Interstate 10 that they'd never forget. They leased a house with a pool in Cocoa near the Kennedy Space Center. Harvey worked in the Vehicle Assembly Building, which is one of the largest in the world. While in Florida, the family witnessed mission launches, mermaids, and alligators. Upon returning to the West Coast in 1973, with his project completed and the aerospace industry in a downturn, Harvey was laid off. An architect at heart, he became a residential design-build contractor.
Sheila had been busy raising the children and teaching recorder and had considered herself a kept woman, but when the layoff came, she deployed herself to the workforce. She worked administrative jobs in schools and the VA hospital. She endeavored to become a court reporter, but sagged into transcription for literary organizations and for KCRW.
Harvey expressed himself creatively through photography, ceramics, collage, and making sculpture from aerospace salvage. The family usually had about 5 cars at any given time, and he enjoyed keeping them all running.
Sheila loved writing and reading. She loved music and played piano, string bass, and recorder. She enjoyed playing with friends, teaching, performing, and filling her home with the sound of the piano. Her love of knitting led her to interest in spinning and weaving and other fiber arts. She enjoyed opening her home to friends and strangers alike, and typically had fresh-baked cookies at the ready.
When aerospace rebounded, Harvey returned to McDonnell Douglas in Huntington Beach, commuting from the Pacific Palisades until he retired in 1985. In retirement, they found great fulfillment focusing on defending the wildlands and fostering future generations of stewardship. For many years, Harvey and Sheila were deeply committed to the Topanga Canyon docents, teaching school children and the greater community about the value of nature by leading walks through Topanga Canyon State Park. They were also active in the Native Plant Society, Seaside Weavers, Reed Alumni Book Group, and Chamber Music Palisades. Regularly attended the LA Phil, and of course delighted in being grandparents of Aaron, Garrison, and Annalie.
In 1989, Harvey and Sheila bought a cabin at the edge of the Lewis and Clark National Forest in Montana. Spring through fall was spent there with family and friends, enjoying their local community and exploring the natural and cultural history of the region. They worked with the Montana Environmental Information Center, advocating for clean and healthful public lands. They worked for democratic causes and enjoyed engaging with those differently minded. While at the cabin, they saw more of Sheila's brother Aaron and his wife Jeannie. The Montana-California migration usually included a visit with Sister Penny and her husband Bob in Salt Lake.
Harvey and Sheila's complementary senses of humor that initially bonded them sustained them throughout their lives. Harvey's was offbeat and esoteric, was lost on many, but so appreciated by those who got it.
Sheila was quick-witted and sometimes sharp-tongued, and she was always scheming up something clever to make Harvey laugh.
Harvey was in possession of a great mind, one that so many of us relied on for wisdom and knowledge.
Sheila possessed a curiosity about everyone she met. People often said that they felt listened to and calm in her presence.
Harvey's greatest gift was for opening the eyes of others to different ways of seeing and thinking. He found beauty and balance where most would not think to look.
Sheila's deep commitment to everything she held dear, marriage, motherhood, democracy, nature, and humanitarianism, inspired everyone she knew. She gave and gave until she could give no more and passed peacefully on March 23, 2020.
Sheila and Harvey were so tightly bound to one another, one could not exist without the other. On September 11th, 6 months after Sheila's death and in an advanced state of dementia, Harvey quietly slipped away.
Sheila and Harvey are survived by their children, Dina, Andrea, Stuart, and myself, Sandy, Cara,
And myself, Chris.
Sheila's sister, Penny Barnes, and sister-in-law, Jeannie Peterson, and grandchildren, Aaron, Garrison, and Annalie, and nieces and nephews.
Now we'll present images of their early years set to a parody by Alan Sherman that the family always got a kick out of, in spite of the different pronunciation.
Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, oh, the day they met. Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, no one will forget. Harvey's a CPA. He works for IBM. He went to MIT and got his PhD. Sheila's a girl I know at BBD&O. She works the PBX and makes out the checks. Then came one great day when Harvey took the elevator. Sheila got him 2 floors later. Soon they both felt they were falling. Everyone heard Sheila calling, ring the bell, but they fell. Harv and Sheila fell in love. Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila chose a wedding ring. Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila married in the spring. She shopped at A&P. He bought a used MG. They sat and watched TV on their RCA. Borrowed from HFC, bought some AT&T, and on election day worked for JFK. Then they went and got a charger plate from R.H. Macy, bought a lay at Pink and Lacy. Then they had twin baby girls, both with dimples, both with curls, one named B, one named K. Soon they joined the PTA. Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila moved to West LA. Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila, Harvey and Sheila flew TWA. They bought a house one day, financed by FHA. It had a swimming pool full of H2O. Traded their used MG for a new XKE. Switched to the GOP, that's the way things go. Oh, that Harvey, he was really smart. He used his noodle. Sheila bought a white French poodle. Went to Europe with a visa. Harvey's rich, they say that he's a VIP. This could be only in the USA.
Hi, I'm Andrea, I'm not Kay, but Andrea, child number 2. And first I want to say thank you all for sharing in my parents' lives. And those lives were long and diverse, and it's reflected by the diversity of everybody here today. When someone leaves this earth, I like to reflect on what they gave to me and what I want to carry on for them. Certain things, like my blue eyes, are easy for my mom, and facial features for my dad. Acknowledged by winning the father-daughter look-alike contest at Harvey Junior High. The 2 attributes that are harder to claim, and I continue to strive for in their memory, are creativity and bravery. And creativity is something my parents always fostered in their children and grandchildren. For my 10th birthday party, we went to the brand new LA Zoo, the new one, and what my mom created, stuffed animals for all of my guests. It was a party favorite before everyone really got into those big party bags. So everyone walked away with a little stuffed animal she had made. Another one of her creations was a beatnik doll that she made completely on her own, and I gave it to one of my friends as a gift. And that woman still treasures that gift today. Now, my mother's creativity were not just in sewing. Being in the kitchen was her creation that she also enjoyed all the time. Her concoctions were usually tasty, but the presentation was always quite not there. So my cousin Walker coined an expression that we repeat often. We used to repeat often. It's a good cake in poor condition. But her art was really in the making of the dish and not necessarily on the final presentation. She would not, nothing would scare her. She got my dad into making lefse. She made croissants, made homemade bread regularly, and her crowning achievement every year for my dad's birthday was making a Yule log, which if anyone has ever eaten one, you know that's a flat piece of cake that gets rolled up into a circle and stuffed, and they're not easy. But that was always something we all would share in it on New Year's Day for my dad's birthday. My father's creativity flourished My father's creativity flourished in many areas, but the two mediums I think he most enjoyed were ceramics and photography. The joy of making something hopefully beautiful and useful out of a wad of dirt is something both of us have shared. His love for photography created endless hours of our family sitting in the car by the side of the road while my dad captured the image he was wanting to preserve and for us to enjoy for eternity. My parents' bravery is something I will continue to strive for. It was very brave of them as new parents, or new 20-year-olds moving to California from Montana, and then to embrace so many non-traditional ideas. I just want to know how that conversation went with my parents told their parents that they were not going to keep their grandchildren in a crib, but we were all going to be kept in a Skinner box as infants. I can't imagine what my grandparents thought of that idea. Or instead of hiring teenage babysitters, they joined a babysitting pool in the Palisades where the adults would all take care of the other children, and they would exchange script for the hours that they spent taking care of or giving the care for those children. It was rather a socialistic idea for the 60s and not that long after the McCarthy era. But I think we all benefited from it. But my mother's bravery to care for my father as his disease got worse, and my father's bravery in fighting the loss of memory is what I admire the most. I hope to carry on. Thank you all for standing with them in their incredible journey, standing by me and our family as we've adjusted to the life without them.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks, Mom. How's everyone doing? So it was difficult to think about both my grandparents. I think one of the things many of us got out of the pandemic was kind of this cope of forgetting all that we went through and trying to just get past it. So when writing this, I struggled to remember. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it has been a bit. And what I have left are sort of vignettes of Sheila and Harvey, and I'd like to share some of them with you. As an adopted child, my grandma was a comforting presence in my childhood and early teens. She filled the role of a second mother and stood by me through the struggles that I faced that feeling of not belonging and that sense of distance from everyone. Like for many, my grandma introduced me to a lot of pretty big concepts as a kid. The first of which was an appreciation for nature. And even if I wasn't always the most attentive to her discussions, she always made sure that that appreciation stuck with me. She had a beautiful way of introducing mnemonics into nature. So when I was thinking of things, that she had this way of so the California quails, when they call out, they say cuidado, right? Which is like, look out, right? Like, be careful. And I never forget that. It's the weirdest thing, but every time I hear a quail, it's like, all right, what's going on? what am I looking out for? My grandma was also my gateway into music. Even if I struggled to match her passion for it, honestly, I think anybody would struggle to match her passion for music. Something that she would, do, like a moment that I remember is just the creak of the piano room on the bench and her joyful singing. And it didn't really have any pretensions, her love for music. It was just genuine. Like her love for everything. It wasn't to show off. It wasn't to prove something. It was just because she loved doing it. And I think that's really beautiful. And lastly, my grandma was my gateway into cooking. Again, that's something that wasn't really stuck, but was a really good time. My grandpa definitely played a different role. I was kind of all over the place as a kid, and he was very intense and challenged me in ways that nobody else was doing. He held me accountable and pushed me to cultivate my potential in the ways that he knew how. He possessed this really amusing duality, right? He's a really formidable intellectual figure, towering above everyone else and effortlessly commanding respect, but also a total kid at heart with his love of ice cream and playful attitude and jokes. As things went along, the grandpa I knew wasn't always there. And sometimes I really reminisce of how nice it would be to connect with him on some of the same interests and hobbies that he fostered in me as a child, as they manifested throughout my life and the decisions that I've made and the hobbies that I pursued. And we can't really control how people affect us, the passage of time or the loss we experience, but the things that they leave behind and the impressions they make linger and stay with us. I see traces of my grandparents in the small things, the values that I hold, the passions I pursue, and the relationships I have with the world around me. I think the beauty and the tragedy of my grandparents was that they were both extraordinary individuals, which I think were unique of their time and will be unique for all time. And thank you.
Hi, it's me again, Chris. I'm going to read a short poem, and I have a few things to say about Harvey and Sheila. And my apologies to Mr. Whitman. I changed the words a little bit, just to include Montana. I'm also sorry to Oregon for omitting you. And poem is A Promise to California, or inland to the great pastoral plains and on to Puget Sound and Montana. Sojourning east a while longer, soon I travel toward you, to remain, to teach robust American love. For I know very well that I and robust love belong among you, inland and along the Western Sea. For these states tend inland and towards the Western Sea, and I will also. Okay, so I've said my name is Chris. I'm married to Cara, the youngest of Harvey's children. I'm also the youngest of my 7 siblings, a modest Irish family. And many of my family members have visited over the years and remarked on how tightly knit and close the Bjornleys are. The strong bond between Sheila and Harvey extends throughout the family, always coming together for holidays, birthdays, and any reason that could be found to share a meal and celebration at Sheila and Harvey's home. Harvey and I were immediately kindred spirits. Like him, I was a design graduate with a passion for cars. He was most impressed when I expressed a keen interest in his book of tractors. He shared with me his knowledge of Los Angeles architecture, and we spent many hours poring over modern architecture books and visiting some iconic LA landmarks. Sheila and I were avid readers. We exchanged books, and she would always send me home with volumes to read, introducing me to Edward Abbey and many important writers about the history and conservation of the American Southwest. I have an ever-growing and shrinking stack of books beside my bed for years, much like my own mother would leave books on my nightstand throughout my life. When Sheila passed away in March of 2020, it was a dark time indeed. And with Harvey's passing soon after, I felt like my California family was falling apart. But perhaps the greatest legacy for Sheila and Harvey are their children and grandchildren. In preparation for this event, Kakanza at one point said of the Bjornleys that you guys are remarkably congenial. Remarkably congenial. That's something we could all use more of. In May of 2021, after what had been a very tough and traumatic 2020, we gathered to celebrate my 50th trip around the sun, without Harvey and Sheila, but with the rest of my California family. For I know very well that I and robust love belong among you. Thank you.
You can do it. Okay. You start.
Hello. I think you all know that I'm Cara, the baby, their favorite child. I prepared some things to read, but I know I'm going to be too nervous because I know on the day that Chris and I were married here 16 years ago in front of pretty much this crowd and a couple more, I mean, it was a very small crowd. And Dad and I were so nervous as he walked me down the aisle that he forgot to give me my hug and my kiss as he gave me over to Chris, and he just peeled off over to his seat, and I tried to not stumble on the steps on getting up here. So I am a very nervous person as such. I'm not going to read what I wrote, and Kikanza has been so kind to volunteer.
All right, but
to
you
do
get
it
to
for
stay
me.
up here.
And I'm going to stay up here. I am not as brave as my sister.
But you are the favorite.
Yeah.
So it is written, the pronouns are interesting. So it was written in second person.
I wrote it in second person.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you and you all will see why shortly. So my perspective of growing up of Bjornley. When we traveled, it was by car and we camped. You either slept on the car seat or in a tent, on a platform, on the roof of the Suburban, something Dad devised long before anyone had them. As the baby on car trips, you sat in the front seat between your parents. Your father behind the wheel would scan the landscape for pleasing compositions while your mother knitted or read to you all. You had a nose cone from a rocket and a flying saucer in your backyard. They didn't think that was odd. Your crib was a Skinner box, and still you turned out okay. At some point, you realized that your parents were kind of unconventional and that you all were not the norm, but then that was pretty cool. You were indulged, but never overindulged. You always had a dog and a cat, but no matter how many times you asked, you never got that pony. Your mom called you applesauce, and your dad called himself your male parental unit. The only competitive sport that your very congenial family engaged in was fussball. Your mom thinks it's a good idea to not assign household chores that are not traditional for your gender, which resulted in you're not doing many chores at all. You took great pride and joy in setting a table and welcoming friends and family into your home. Your creativity was recognized and nurtured. Your dad showed you architecture, design, art, and their creators. And from your mom, you learned plants and trees and birds and their names. You took long van rides on Forest Service roads with long stops as your dad set up his camera and waited for the right moment. And you marveled with him at the way fallen spruce needles had been aligned with the water flow patterns across the dirt road. You held nature and natural forces in the highest regard and learned respect for all creatures and waited for your dad as he escorted an insect carrying a heavy load across the parking lot. Your meals were always at home, always cooked by your mom. There was often something burning on the stove, as she'd really rather be playing the piano. On weekends, your friends all crashed at your house because your parents were cool that way. And your dad referred to your friends as groovy juvies, which you took to mean delinquents. And your mom found them all so interesting and loved engaging with each one. You were so proud of your parents. You thought nothing about bringing boys to their house on your first date. You had a lot of freedom to explore the people, places, and things, and only you once got grounded. You were spanked a time or two, but you never doubted their love. And from your parents, you inherited riches in all of its forms: wealth, knowledge, humor, tradition, good taste, humility, openness, kindness, generosity, and graciousness. But the best is that you inherit the communities of people who knew and loved your parents too.
This is true.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we didn't plan to dress alike today, but we did.
Yes, we did. We got the memo. Thank you. These are mine. These are yours. Oops. And so now, a musical interlude. So we hope that you all are planning to stay after the service because there are more pictures and more stories, and there is lots of food. I mean, lots and lots of food. So we might even cut short the service so that you can get out there to eat some of the food before they lock up the church. All right.
As has been mentioned earlier, my name is Aaron. I am one of their grandchildren, Harvey and Sheila's grandchildren. Artistic and creative expression were always very important to my grandparents. They were always very supportive of any creative interests anyone showed. Music has been an important part for many of us in the family, including my grandparents. I remember seeing my grandpa sitting motionless in front of a radio or stereo, totally fixed on a piece of classical music. And of course, my grandma was often sitting at the piano, playing while something baked in the oven. For my grandpa, music seemed to be deeply moving. And for my grandma, it seemed a grounding and meditative mental exercise. But more than that, I believe she thought it was an essential part of one's social education. My grandparents took me to many concerts when I was in town and when I moved into town, including at the downtown concert halls and the local chamber music group. My grandparents didn't necessarily understand all the music that their children and their grandchildren listened to and played, but I know that they were pleased that music meant so much to so many of them. Sometimes I would get into these long, unresolved misunderstandings with my grandmother about how we each approached music, and I still don't believe that she thinks that I can play music without reading it. When I moved in with them, during their final years, we found common ground in our love of old country western tunes. I would sing Hank Williams, and they'd sit around and listen. And my grandma would say, "Now we get his music." So I'm going to sing a couple of tunes. Cost-efficient pairings of sizes. And I think we ended up getting 2 larges. You keep me waiting till it's getting aggravating, you're a slowpoke. I wait and worry, but you never seem to hurry, you're a slowpoke. Time means nothing to you, I wait and then late again. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:45. Why should I linger every time you snap your finger, little slowpoke? Why can't you hasten when you see the time's a wasting? You're a slowpoke, dear. Why should I keep trying to change you? It's not the thing to do. I guess I'll have to learn to be a slowpoke too. Wait until it's getting aggravating, you're a slowpoke. I wait and worry, but you never seem to hurry, you're a slowpoke. Time means nothing to you, I wait and then late again. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:45. Why should I linger every time you snap your finger, little slowpoke? Why can't you hasten when you see the time's a wasting? You're a slowpoke, dear. Why should I keep trying to change you? It's not the thing to do. I guess I'll have to learn to be a slowpoke too. I'm going to sing one more song. This is a song that one of my grandparents referenced one time when I was singing around the house. It's written and recorded by Hank Williams in 1951, which would have been when they were recording. So. Say, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me? Hey, sweet baby, don't you think maybe we can find us a brand new recipe? I've got a hot rod Ford and a $2 bill, and I know a spot right over the hill. There's soda pop and the dancing's free, so if you wanna have fun, come along with me. Said, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? Or how's about cooking something up with me? I'm free and ready, so we can go steady. Or how's about saving all your time for me? No more looking, I know I've been tooken. Or how's about keeping steady company? I'm gonna throw my date book over the fence and buy me one for 5 or 10 cents. I'll keep it till it's covered with age, 'cause I'm writing your name down on every page. Said, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering, are there any family members who didn't get on the program who have something that they'd like to say at this point? Yes. Would you like to come up here, or would you like us to bring the mic to you? Here, how about if we bring the mic to you? You made it up here, so. Come on around. Tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Shada's sister. I thought about this for some time. When I was born, Shada was 5 years old, and I was sick. And she told me I was home for maybe 3 months, and then I went into the hospital. And when I came home from the hospital, I was over a year old. And she said I just was skinny, weighed about 25 pounds, and had long reddish blonde hair. And anyway, she ended up, without her, I probably wouldn't be here today. We shared a room most of our lives, and even when we lived in Wisconsin, we shared a room. And we moved to Montana, we shared a room. And every night we would sing in harmony all the songs that we'd learned at Girl Scouts and other places like that. And my mother, in her infinite wisdom, these kids' grandmother, great-grandmother, great-grandmother sent them. She sent Sheila and I to a girls' camp, a Catholic camp in Minnesota. And I was only 4 years old, so she was only 9. And that's pretty young for sending your kid off. And so, but Sheila, every time I had a problem, because I really wasn't well, she had to come take care of me, even though I wasn't in the same age group as she was. And when I was 5 or so, Sheila and my brother Walker went off to a movie one Sunday afternoon, and my parents took a nap, and I thought, well, they went to a movie, why can't I go to a movie? So I went to a movie by myself. I just walked. I went to the first theater that I came to. I walked behind the ticket taker, and he assumed I was with somebody else that was coming in. But when the movie was over, I looked in the back, and there was Sheila. And so I got up and moved. So then I looked again, and there she was, still looking for me. So I got up and moved again. And this happened about 3 or 4 times. And each place I moved to or moved from, I left part of my clothing. My shoes or my snowsuit or my jacket or the snow pants or something like that. And so she actually was pretty good about taking care of me. And we went to, my brother, my older brother, myself, and Sheila went to a normal school, which is a college, a school connected with the college in Eau Claire. And there again, every time there was a problem with me because I was still sick, they would call Sheila and she had to take care of me. So, excuse me, I owe her a lot. And every one of her kids I felt like were my kids. And we couldn't have been any better or gotten along any better. My husband and I moved to Ventura and lived there for 4 years, and they were either at my house or I was at their house. And I was at their house when Andrea had her accident and ended up in the hospital for the summer when she was only 7. So I really owe a lot to this family. And Harvey took care of me because he took me out to see the whales. He took me sailing. He took me on the back of his motorcycle up through one of the canyons, and we ended up at some place where the Harley Davidson riders were. And so we all got along pretty well, and I thank her for everything. Thank you.
Did I see one more person? Come on.
I'm Sandy. Hi again. So I'm probably the newest to this family. And Sue and I have been together for, 8 years? 7? Something, who knows, something like that. And where their story says, Sheila possessed a curiosity about everyone she met, and people often said that they felt listened to. She just welcomed me with pole arms, and everyone did. I feel as much a part of this family as I do my own. I didn't grow up with a lot of nature in my life, but I found it later, living in Mammoth Lakes. And Mary Oliver is one of my favorite poets, and I found this book in Montana at the cabin. Sheila has a gazillion books there. And this one has an inscription in it, and she says in it that she is her favorite poet, and I felt a real connection to her from this. And so I wanted to read a poem. It's called October, and I guess fall in Montana was Sheila's favorite. Also, I should say that sadly, I feel like I didn't really get to know Harvey very well, and I am really sad about that. He was pretty far into his dementia when I met Stuart. But he definitely had a love of ice cream and some very funny jokes at times. So this is called October. There's this shape, black as the entrance to a cave. A longing wells up in its throat like a blossom as it breathes slowly. What does the world mean to you if you can't trust it to go on shining when you're not there? And there's a tree long fallen. Once bees flew to it like a procession of messengers and filled it with honey. I said to the chickadee singing his heart out in the green pine tree, little dazzler, little song, little mouthful. That shape climbs up out of the curled grass, it grunts into view. There is no measure for the confidence at the bottom of its eyes. There is no telling the suppleness of its shoulders as it turns and yawns. Near that fallen tree, something, a leaf snapped loose from the branch and fluttering down, tries to pull me into its trap of attention. It pulls me into its trap of attention, and when I turn again, the bear is gone. Look, hasn't my body already felt like the body of a flower? Look, I want to love this world as though it's the last chance I'm ever going to get to be alive and know it. Sometimes in late summer, I won't touch anything. Not the flowers, not the blackberries brimming in the thickets. I won't drink from the pond. I won't name the birds or the trees. I won't whisper my own name. One morning, the fox came down the hill, glittering and confident, and didn't see me. And I thought, so this is the world. I'm not in it. It is beautiful.
Author William Kruger Kent said that rituals like this are helpful. There's a good deal of value in the rituals that accompany death because it's hard to say goodbye, and it's almost impossible to say goodbye alone. Ritual is the railing that we hold onto. It keeps us upright and connected until the worst has passed. The Bjornley family has waited a very long time for this ritual, this official mourning and celebration of the lives of Harvey and Sheila. Harvey and Sheila died during the COVID pandemic. Harvey was declining with Alzheimer's. Sheila was his caregiver. She went into the hospital, and the family couldn't see her. She died 10 days later. They found a place for Harvey because he needed 24/7 care, and he didn't quite get that his wife of 68 years was dead. But he died a few months later. So the family lost mother and father within months of each other. And they lost the opportunity to be with them, to surround them with their presence when they died. These are deep and lasting wounds. These have been painful times for most of us, and our job is to learn to live with the pain, but not suffer from it. Pain wounds you. Suffering, however, stops you. As each person we love dies, they leave a hole in the fabric of our universe. The hole could be parent-shaped, or friend-shaped, or simply love-shaped. Now, your life may not be as substantial as it used to be with these holes in your universe. Your world might be more fragile and emptier because your loved ones have left you. But because of what they gave you, your life is surely more complex and richer and far more beautiful than it had been. And as the love-shaped holes lose their sharp edges, you can appreciate the texture in your life, created first by the presence of your loved one, and then by the light that appears in their absence, as your universe becomes love-woven lace. Now, if lace doesn't work for you as a metaphor, I encourage you to find something that works on your own. Bubbles, clouds, flowers, something that you can relate to. See, at times like this, people often talk about lives that were full and long, or deaths that seem premature. And those thoughts reflect assumptions of entitlement. Most of us are convinced that we are entitled to a certain number of years of life and a certain kind of death. And anything that differs from those presumed norms is considered a tragedy or a blessing. The truth is that if you live, you're going to die. We don't know how, we don't know when. And so our focus is not to understand or explain away the how or why of someone's death. Our job is to mourn and to support the mourners and to see if there is something that we can learn from the light that shines through the love-shaped holes in our universe. So, my friends, may you find comfort and solace through what you believe. Or may you come to believe something that works for you. Each of us has the chance to make a difference in the small corner of the universe that we occupy. So take the time to make a difference where you are. Let the people you know, people that you care about, know that you care in ways that are meaningful to them, with a song, with a poem, with a plant, with a burnt cookie. Grieving takes a long time, so be gentle with yourselves. Think about the light that shines through the love-shaped holes in your universe. Think about the light that is shining on you as you move through life, tenderized by your losses. E.E. Cummings wrote, "I carry your heart with me. I carry your heart in my heart. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart." We're going to miss them. Let us carry them in our hearts. And so I'd like us to close together with a poem that we can do together. You don't have the words and you don't have to worry about it, because your line is, "We remember them." You say that? We remember them. We remember Harvey, we remember Sheila, we remember everyone who has gone before us. We remember them. So when I point to you, that's your line. We remember them. Remember us, you who are living, restore us, renew us, speak for our silence. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the glowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, in the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, in the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, in the beginning of the year and when it ends, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So as long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Remember us, you who are living, restore us, renew us, and speak for our silence. Continue our work, bless the breath of life, sing of the hidden patterns, weave the web of peace. We're going to close with a very simple song. It's called Go Now in Peace. And so Ryan's going to play it for us. We'll sing it through once. It's on page 413 in your gray hymnal. And then as the music continues to play, we invite you to move into the social hall where you can continue with stories. You can pick up a recipe from Sheila's Kitchen. You can have some of the wonderful food and drink that has been prepared for you. And if you cannot stay, please make sure that you sign the guest book on the way out and know that the family is deeply appreciative of your presence here this afternoon. And so we'll play it once and then we'll sing it. Peace, my friends.